You walk into the room and shrink, just a little. You laugh at the joke that you did not find funny. You nod when you disagree. You hold back what you truly wanted to say. You leave parts of yourself at the door and call it being polite. But it is not kindness, it is fear. You are not afraid of people. You are afraid of being seen, truly seen. Because deep down, you do not believe you are worthy of being known and still loved. So you perform, you shapeshift, you wear the mask that fits the moment. And sometimes, you forget you are even wearing it. But late at night, when the performance is over and the audience is gone, you feel it, that ache. The ache of being surrounded yet unseen. The ache of being liked but not known. The ache of living behind a version of yourself that is easier to accept. You see, most people are not afraid of failure. They are afraid of exposure, of being fully known, flaws, fears, mess and all, of standing in the light without makeup, metaphorically or otherwise. And it starts young. As children, we learn quickly. Being yourself is risky. Speak too loudly, and you are too much. Show emotion, and you're too sensitive. Stand out, and you're shamed. So you retreat, you adapt, you hide, and it works. You gain approval, you make people comfortable, you avoid rejection. But the cost, you lose touch with who you really are. Not suddenly, slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time. Until one day, you wake up and realize you have built a life around a false self. Your friendships are based on a version of you that does not fully exist. Your confidence is a performance. Your achievements feel hollow. And worst of all, you are not even sure who you are without the masks. This is why authenticity feels so terrifying. Because it demands the death of your old identity. It asks you to walk away from everything and everyone who only knew the watered-down version of you. And that kind of courage, it is rare. Because when you finally show who you are, you risk everything. You risk being misunderstood. You risk being rejected. You risk people walking away. And they might. Not everyone can hold space for your truth. Not everyone is meant to. But here is the paradox. The more you hide, the more invisible you become, even to yourself. And nothing feels more painful than being unseen while still pretending to be okay. The fear of being seen is not just about other people. It is about you. It is about what you believe you are allowed to be, what you think is lovable, what you were taught to suppress. And this fear, it leaks into everything. It keeps you quiet in relationships where you should speak. It keeps you stagnant in jobs that drain you. It keeps you chasing approval from people who would never choose the real you. It keeps you small. You think you are protecting yourself, but really, you are imprisoning yourself. Because hiding is not safety. Hiding is slow death. And deep down, a part of you knows that. A part of you is starving to be known. Even if it means being misunderstood. Even if it means being alone for a while. Even if it means losing what you thought you needed. That part of you is still alive, buried, but breathing. And the day you let that part lead is the day you begin to live. They say just be yourself like it is easy. But what if you do not know who that is anymore? What if yourself has been buried beneath years of pretending? Pretending to be happy. Pretending to be confident. Pretending to be unbothered. Pretending to be okay. There is a strange comfort in the mask. It is heavy, yes, but it is familiar. It protects you from judgment. It helps you belong, even if that belonging is shallow. and it keeps you safe from the most terrifying possibility of all, being rejected for who you really are. Because then what? If the fake version of you is disliked, at least it is not personal. But if the real you is rejected, it cuts deeper. It confirms every fear you have ever had about not being enough. So you keep hiding. You become who people want. You say what they want to hear. You suppress what makes you different. And every time you do that, you send yourself a message. I am not lovable as I am. That belief becomes your compass. It guides your choices, your relationships, your self-worth. You accept less than you deserve because you think it is all you can get. You tolerate disrespect because speaking up feels dangerous. You stay quiet because your truth feels like a liability. But here is the secret nobody talks about. The people who love you for your mask do not love you. They love your performance. They love your compliance. They love the version of you that makes their life easier. And you know it. That is why it feels so lonely, even when you are surrounded. Because deep down, you are aware. You are not actually being loved. You are being tolerated, and you are exhausted. This is the crisis point, the moment when your soul gets louder than your fear. When you look at your life, your job, your friendships, your reflection, and think, I cannot keep living like this. This is where the real growth begins. Not the pretty kind, not the Instagrammable kind. The kind that feels like death. The death of who you were trained to be. And make no mistake, it will cost you. You might lose people. You might be called selfish. You might feel completely unrecognizable to yourself. Because for the first time, you are not seeking permission. You are seeking truth. You are learning to sit with your real emotions, to listen to your own voice, to trust your gut over the crowd, to stop editing your soul to be digestible. And as you do this, something wild happens. You begin to remember. You remember what you used to love before shame told you it was weird. You remember the dreams you buried. You remember the fire you used to carry. You remember you. And the more you remember, the less you can tolerate what is fake. Fake friendships, fake laughter, fake ambition, fake confidence. It all starts to rot in your hands. Because when you start telling the truth, even to yourself, everything built on lies begins to collapse. But let it fall. Let it all fall. The life you built while hiding was never going to satisfy you. It was survival, not self-expression. And now you are ready to live. This is where you reclaim your power. Not by shouting, not by proving anything, but by standing in your own skin and saying, this is me. I am not perfect, but I am real. And that is enough. Not everyone will clap. Not everyone will stay. But the ones who do, they will see you. The real you. And that is worth everything. There is a moment, a quiet, sacred moment, when you realize you are no longer hiding. It does not feel like fireworks. It does not feel like victory. It feels like peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from comfort or silence, but the kind of peace that comes from alignment, when who you are, what you say, and how you live all match. No more masks, no more pretending, no more shrinking to fit. It is terrifying at first to be that visible, to show up in a world that profits off your insecurity and still say, I am enough. But eventually, something shifts. You begin to see the freedom on the other side of fear. And that freedom, it changes everything. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop seeking approval in every room you walk into. You stop waiting for someone to tell you you're allowed to be yourself, because you already are. You realize that not everyone needs to understand you, to respect you, that not everyone needs to accept you for you to accept yourself, and that the people who once made you feel small were never your people. They were just mirrors reflecting their own discomfort. This is where your life begins to expand. You start creating instead of copying. You start speaking from the heart instead of rehearsing your lines. You start building relationships based on depth, not performance. And most importantly, you start waking up in the morning without that heavy feeling of being disconnected from your own soul. You begin to feel light, not because life is easy, but because you're no longer dragging around a false identity. And here is what nobody tells you about healing. When you finally become who you were always meant to be, you grieve. You grieve the time you lost pretending. You grieve the friendships that were never real. You grieve the younger version of you who thought they had to be someone else to be loved. But grief is not weakness. It is proof that you are awakening. Because the most courageous thing you will ever do in this life is let go of who you were taught to be and choose who you really are. Not the filtered version, not the digestible version, not the version that gets claps from the crowd. The real one, the version that cries when they feel deeply, that speaks the truth even if their voice shakes, that creates without worrying how it will be received, that loves boldly even after being hurt, that walks into rooms with quiet self-trust, not loud validation seeking. You were never meant to live a life of emotional hiding. You were not born to be invisible. You were not created to be liked by everyone. You were built to be real, to express, to connect, to lead, to feel. And when you return to that, truly return, the fear of being seen dissolves. Not because it is no longer scary, but because you are no longer willing to live a life that demands your silence. You know now, real connection requires real presence. Real love requires real vulnerability. Real peace requires real honesty. And the only way to experience those things is to stand, fully and unapologetically, in your truth. So take off the mask, say what you mean, be who you are, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if the world does not understand. Because somewhere out there is someone waiting to meet the real you, not the version you perfected to be accepted, but the unfiltered, unpolished, undeniably human you. And maybe, just maybe, that person is you.